Yo, and welcome back to the Banter Boys podcast. My name is Sanji. With me is Ryan. How you doing, boy?
I'm good, Sanji. How are you, man?
I'm good, man. Thank you so much for coming on to this special feature that we're doing for this preseason. First time ever. We're calling it the Inside Trax. No pun intended, you know. And with me is Ryan Barnes. Am I right? From
that's right.
The Draft Society. Ryan, welcome to the pod. If you want, let's do a quick fan introduction. You know, tell the people who you are, your Twitter handle, which club you're representing tonight, and you know, what do you do? Just a little spiel about you.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first, thanks for having me. Big supporter of you and the rest of the boys. So yeah, really appreciate the invite. Ryan Barnes. My Twitter handle is CNFC82. I unfortunately sometimes I think it's unfortunate, but I support Arsenal. We've had our ups and downs, but yeah, never a dull moment supporting that club. I'm originally from Ohio in the States. I currently live in Washington, D.C., and I work for a tech company, and I manage international trade issues for them.
Wow, and you landed yourself in fantasy football. How did that even happen?
Oh man, so I've been a big football fan for a while. I picked it up in Spain when I studied there in college, and then so I watched La Liga, and Valencia was my first love, and then I quickly started watching the Premier League, and there was really no turning back. And so yeah, I've been watching the Premier League obsessively ever since, and then a good buddy of mine that I met here in DC back in like 2014 told me about this thing called Talga, and we ended up creating our league, which is still my main league to this day, for the 2015-2016 season, and I've been hooked ever since.
Yeah, hashtag RIP Toga. We're still waiting on you guys to come back, man. I don't know what's taking you forever. Like,
I know. Good memories. Bad memories as well, but good memories mostly.
Definitely.
A lot of bug issues, but yeah, it was fantastic.
Yeah. So by the way, I mean, before we get into business, we always like to have a little bit of a casual chat. You know, the women's Euros kicked off this evening. I think it was England versus Austria. England with the 1-0 win. I don't know. Do you follow a lot of women's football?
I'll usually watch a little bit of the big tournaments like the Euros and the World Cup, of course, but I can't say that I follow it that frequently in between the big tournaments. Yeah,
I mean, next week I'm going to Spain versus Germany. I think I'm like 4 seats away from the pitch. We'll see how it goes. I'm mainly just going for like the vibe, the entertainment, you know, just to get a feel for it.
Absolutely.
And I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, I'm not gonna complain about a £10 ticket price either, right? So.
Oh, that's lovely. What is it at Wembley or which stadium?
Brentford Stadium.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
It's I think the second time that I've been there. Actually, so the guy that's doing the Brentford segment actually hooked me up with tickets for one of the cup games there, a Chelsea Brentford game. So he's gonna come on, and we're gonna get to hear a little bit of inside info about Brentford as well.
I think I know who you're talking about. I was going to get tickets from him for a game this past December, and then it got called off because of COVID. So I still haven't been to that stadium. It looks cool.
Yeah. Should be fun. So just a quick breakdown of how we're gonna do these episodes. They're not gonna be 3 hours long like our last couple episodes. God, I hope not. I don't have the time.
I could bang on about Arsenal for 3 hours.
I'm sure you can.
No one would want to listen to it.
Honestly, I told Robbie that as well. It's like, you give us a couple beers and we'll sit down and talk football, fantasy football for hours and hours and hours, right? It's up to the fans whether or not they want to listen to us. So
exactly. That's on you guys.
Yeah, exactly. So we're just gonna do a bit of general discussion about the club. What the fans kind of think about, how their previous season went, new expectations, that sort of stuff. Then we kind of jump
Sure.
into the actual game side, like draft advice. Talking about picks, that maybe some hidden gems, etc. And then round things off with their thoughts on how they kind of conduct trades in their leagues, and if there's any extra bits that kind of naturally we kind of run with it, right? So let's get started.
Awesome. Sounds good.
So first question, so if applicable, what do you think is going to be the impact of any new manager ownership? So Arteta has been in it's like one full season now, at least 2 full seasons.
It's been 3 at this point.
Oh, 3. Good Lord, time is flowing.
Time flies, man. Time flies when you're getting 8th.
So, I mean, there really hasn't been any sort of change in that sense, but let me at least get your take on how do you think it's gone so far? Like, do you think he's surpassed expectations? Are you one of those fans that, listen, he hasn't won anything, we didn't get Champions League, he needs to get the fuck out right now? Like, where are you at?
I usually tend to be fairly in the middle on the Arteta debate. I mean, came in, won an FA Cup against all odds, beat Man City in the semis, and then Chelsea in the final. So came in, got some silverware. Immediately has more silverware than any Spurs player at this point. So he got a lot of credit, and I had to get that in.
Yeah, obviously.
So he banked a lot of credit and goodwill early on, which I think really saved him come last season when we started out 0-3, 0 points, 0 goals, and we were dead last. And at that point, Spurs were actually top of the table. If you remember, under Nuno, they got 9 points out of 3. So had a really tough start last season. A lot of people wanted him to leave, but ended up turning it around. Last season was just such a roller coaster, ups and downs. Like I said, that terrible start, and then a December to remember. Ran off a great streak in December, got us back in the top 4, especially with such a young team. Last season, I had pretty low expectations. I thought if we finished above 6th, that it would be progress, given how young the squad was. But to be in a position to nick top 4 at the end, despite a couple really bad losses, particularly to Brighton and Southampton on the trot, that was disappointing. But to even be in that position, I thought was a pleasant surprise. And so I'm certainly willing to give him at least this season. Now that it's really kind of become his team, having a few windows under his belt and investing pretty well thus far, and it seems like the signings have been good this window. So yeah, I think we'll crack on. I'm pretty cautiously optimistic. I think we have it in us to get 4th. It's still going to be tough given all of the competition, but if we got 4th, I'd be over the moon.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that kind of answers the next question, right? What your expectations were. One thing I really, really love about Arteta compared to like maybe a few of your previous managers is he seems like a very much no bullshit sort of manager. Like if you're gonna be toxic, if you're gonna waste our time, like get the fuck out. Like Aubameyang, for example, right?
Yeah.
He didn't waste any time.
Yeah.
Club captain. Kept him out the squad when he was late to games, that indiscipline. He had a zero tolerance for bullshit sort of thing, right? So, which is refreshing.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you're certainly going to see that in the upcoming Amazon documentary.
Yeah.
I'm assuming that's going to be quite a key theme throughout it. But yeah, he got a lot of stick and still gets a lot of stick for that Aubameyang expulsion. Just because, we struggled for goals second half, and then, of course, we're just came up short for 4th. But obviously was the right move. We played a lot better without him. To get, even not getting any transfer fees for him from Barcelona, just to get those wages off the books. I mean, he signed a Salah-like renewal, getting, I think, $400,000 a week. So getting him off the books and a few others, like Lacazette and a few others, really has opened up the books for these transfers that we're now seeing. So yeah, I like that about Arteta as well. The flip side of that is he can be a bit stubborn.
Yeah.
He's got that. He's got that in him. But yeah, I'm fairly optimistic about this season, especially given the new signings and how we looked at times last season. So yeah, I'm curious how we'll do this year.
Yeah, I mean, speaking of new signings as well, I mean, let's kick things off with Gabriel Jesus. You guys finally have, I want to say, a proper number 9 who really hasn't been given a chance to show what he can do in the league, right? The numbers definitely back him, right? So, what are your expectations from me? You excited or are you skeptical? Like,
I mean, I'm very excited because, yeah, like you said, on top of everything else, the bad start and the fact that we were very young, to get close to fourth with Lacazette and Eddie Nketiah as our main strikers is really a modern miracle.
Yeah.
So to add Premier League winning striker to the squad is fantastic. Jesus could go one of two ways. The argument against him is that anybody would have banged in 15 goals a season on City with such a star-studded cast and with Pep managing them. So is he just successful because of the system and all the resources up in Man City? The flip side is he was able to do all that with Pep Roulette and not starting day in, day out and just waiting for his chance. And so I'm really excited to see what he'll do. Being able to be the leading man every week. So I think he'll do well. I'm trying to keep my expectations fairly low. I think getting 15 goals in the Premier League would be a godsend, and I think would be enough to get us into the top 4. So I don't think we should expect him, to be a 20 goal scorer right off the bat. But I would love to see something like 13 to 15. That would be awesome.
Do you think any of that 15 is going to include penalties? You think he's going to be able to steal that off Saka?
No, I'm not in that camp. I think Saka's pretty much solidified the penalty taker position, and I don't see it happening. I mean, it's a possibility, but my money would be on Saka keeping penalties.
Oh, fair enough. Okay, let's talk about another new asset. William Seliba?
Yeah, oldie but a goodie.
Yeah. Been lighting
Saliba's
it
been
up
on the books
in League One for a while now, right?
He's been on the Arsenal books for 2 years now.
Yeah.
We bought him from Saint Etienne over 2 years now. Was the next best thing in French football. I think he was 19 at the time. Very highly touted. Loaned him to Marseille, and he was French Young Player of the Year last season. And there's I don't know if you saw it, but there's a great clip of him basically tracking down Mbappe on a fast break 1-on-1 and tackling the ball from him. It's pretty sweet. If you haven't seen it, I'll send it to you. But
definitely,
in addition to that one clip, I've heard and seen just really great things about him, and so I would have been upset if we loaned him out again this season. But thankfully, it looks like he might actually get a contract extension, and he'll get his opportunity this summer. So I don't see him starting in the Prem right away. I still think it's Gabriel's spot to lose, but he'll certainly get in those early cup games and Europa League games, and we'll have an opportunity to compete with Gabriel for that spot. But yeah, I'm excited to have Seliba.
I mean, like, our next kind of question, I'm going to mix this together with the new assets stuff, is like the expected formation. So the reason I kind of brought up Seliba is play a back 3, right?
Mm-hmm.
I felt like there were scenarios last season even where you guys could have played a back 3. One example that comes to mind immediately is the game versus Spurs. I think that's the one that was a pivotal game, top 4 towards the end of the season. I think you guys lost 3-0. I felt like you guys, yes, were riding a high point at that time, but maybe didn't respect the Spurs attack, especially on how much form they were. And I felt like maybe you guys could have gone into that game with a back three. Maybe it would have played out differently. I mean, red cards are a funny thing, right? You could have hindsight is a funny thing as well, right? So you could say ifs, buts, maybes, all that sort of jazz. So that's one of the things that maybe, that could help you guys out a bit more, right? I don't know. Or having that flexibility, I think, really, at least.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, Arteta's done it a few times in the past. That FA Cup run I mentioned went to a back three to solidify things, but that's when we had David Luiz and Mustafi and some of these other clowns in the back. So it was really a necessity. But I think Arteta really, if he has his choice and his personnel, likes to do a four at the back. So. I mean, against Spurs, it would have been an interesting, experiment. Rob Holding was a starting defender, so we really didn't have two good center backs, let alone three to play a back three. So I think he didn't even have the choice given the injuries. But just because we have three great center backs, I don't see Arteta doing a back three unless it was a very niche tactical reason for it. But I think week in, week out, we'll stick to the four, and Gabriel and Seliba will probably just compete for that left center back spot.
Fair enough. Next team I want to talk about, Fabinho Vieira. I feel like most managers won't know about him, right? But that's why we've got the fans, right? Fans like yourself to give us a little bit of an inside scoop of what we can expect from a player like Fabio.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't know him 3 weeks ago. This was a lot of the transfers, as you know, are really long-standing rumors that pop up every window, or at least you get an inkling a week or two out. Vieira was completely out of the blue. Even Fabrizio Romano was saying he came out of the blue. So yeah, we got news of it one day, and then the next day he was signed. So I've been trying to do my research on him ever since, and he looks like a great player. Was very versatile at Porto. Played across the front three. Got a ton of assists. Was one of the most creative players in Portugal. Very young, which fits obviously the Arteta mold and the transfer profile that Arteta and Arsenal have been following the past few years. And so I'm really excited about the future with Vieira. I think it's too early for him to be a starter in the Premier League. Like Seliba, I think he'll start some early Cup and Europa League games. I think Europa is going to be a slog, but the silver lining of that is you get some games for the likes of Vieira and Seliba and some of these other younger players and new transfers that normally wouldn't get a sniff in the Premier League if that was the only competition we were in. So I think that's going to be the season for Vieira, unless Odegaard, for example, gets an injury. I think he'll be backing up Odegaard, and he'll be providing depth in the Cup and Europa League games.
All right, and next couple of names I want to talk about, I definitely don't know about them. Marquinhos from Sao Paulo and Matt Turner from New England Revolution. I'm assuming these are just signings for the future?
Yeah, Marquinhos was an interesting one because from all reports, he had, and the club his Brazilian club had an agreement with Wolves, and Edu, who's a Brazilian and former player, and he's in the front room staff and handling transfers. He apparently has good relations with, I think it was Corinthians, and basically said, we'll, even though he's available on a free, we'll give you 3 million euros for him if you just kind of nix that deal that you have with Wolves. And they ended up doing it, and Wolves was threatening to take us to court, but I don't think they ended up doing it. But it was a funny transfer saga. But yeah, he's certainly one for the future. I think he's 19. Yep. our track record buying youngsters from Brazil, if Martinelli's any indication, is very good.
Yeah.
So I think he'll either be loaned out or he'll be in the same boat probably as and even less so probably as Seliba and Vieira, getting some cameos in those minor cup competitions and maybe the early stages of Europa. But yeah, from all indications, he's going to be a player. But yeah, he's a kind of a pacey, dynamic winger.
And Matty Turner, backup goalie.
Yeah, backup keeper. By all accounts, we're going to be selling current backup keeper Bernd Leno to Fulham.
Sad about that?
Nah, I think he got a bad rap. I was certainly surprised last summer when they said they were going to buy Ramsdale for £30 million when we had Leno, who I thought was a solid keeper. But the way Arteta likes to play with coming out the back, Ramsdale just has better distribution.
So good.
But yeah, I still think Leno's a top shot stopper. So I think that's a good bit of business for Fulham if they can get him in.
So I guess calling Leno the Arsenal Karius would be way too harsh, huh?
Calling anybody Karius is a bit harsh, but yeah, I think that's very harsh.
All right. So final thing I kind of want to ask about is, it's not really a new transfer per se, but he got a new number this summer, was Eddie Nketiah, right? The famous number 14. Does that, you think that puts a lot of pressure on him, or that just shows that he's maybe gonna have a bit of a role next season? I mean, obviously Jesus is in front of him, right? But maybe Nketiah gets like maybe 9 to 10 starts next season.
Yeah, I think people put way too much emphasis and weight on these numbers. I mean, Theo Walcott had 14. It's not, and nobody
Absolute
thought Theo
legend.
was the next Henry. I love Theo
Yeah.
Walcott. I mean, him putting up the 2-0 when he was being stretched out against Tottenham was just legendary. But I think it's a much ado about nothing. I think the 14 is, he just wanted the number. I mean, it's iconic number, so who really cares? But anybody who's ever listened to me the last couple of years knows that I wasn't the biggest fan of Eddie. I just thought very streaky kind of poacher, tap in specialist, but he actually pleasantly surprised me at the end of last season. A lot of his goals were basically just like harassing the goalkeeper and nicking it off him, but a goal's a goal. So
were you on the wrong side of those fantasy points by any chance?
No, I picked him up.
Oh, well done. All right.
Yeah, I saw the writing on the wall. Yeah, I told some folks the week that Lacazette was benched for him that change was coming, and it was in the form of Eddie money. So yeah, I was fortunate enough to pick him up. But to answer your question, he's definitely going to be deputizing for Jesus. But the fact that he's the trusted number 2 is an improvement in his situation. Plus, he signed the new contract and is getting paid pretty well. So to lose him on a free versus having Premier League proven at this point back up to Jesus, and again with the extra fixtures, I think he'll come in handy. But fantasy wise, I'm not really looking to pick him up because it would depend on Jesus getting injured for him to get consistent starts in the Prem. So I'm not banking on him as a fantasy asset. But in real life, I'm slowly getting on the Eddie train.
All right. So now that we've kind of covered the assets, obviously, I'm sure you're expecting a few more outs, maybe a few more ins, right? But based on what we've chatted about, what are you expecting the formation to be, the starting 11, would you say?
I think he'll stick to a 4-2-3-1. So we'd have Ramsdale in goal. Tierney at left back. He's fit again, thank God, and training. So Anybody that had any concerns about his injury last season, he's apparently recovered, and like I said, he's back in training, and he'll have a full preseason. He's injury prone AF, so keep that in mind. But for now, he's fit, so he'll be starting left back. Like I said, Gabriel Martinez, I think, is going to be the left center back, but will be competing with Seliba over the course of the season. Then you have Ben White as the right center back. Tomiyasu at right back. Similar situation to Tierney. Apparently he's back fit and will have a preseason. He's was provided a lot of solidity at that right back spot. And then the midfield two as of now, Granit Xhaka, the guy that just will not die or go away at the left side of the defensive midfield, and then Thomas Partey on the right side. He's back fit as well. And then the front three in front of the number 9 as of now, I think will be Martinelli at left wing with Smith Rowe backing him up. Odegaard as the number 10 creative force with Vieira backing him up, and then of course Saka at right wing, and then Jesus, new transfer up top. So that'll be your 4-2-3-1.
Lovely. So now that we've kind of talked about the players and whatnot, with the new rules, the 5 sub rules, Winter World Cup, it's weird as fuck. Can't believe this is happening. Who do you think's gonna really be affected by all of this? Who's at risk of being rotated, or who are you worried about maybe drafting this season because of the World Cup?
The 5 substitution rule, I think, isn't going to be as utilized as a lot of folks seem to think. On the face of it, you would think that that defenders would have a bit more value because they usually last the full 90 as opposed to midfielders or forwards, especially ones that have pretty good backups and fresh legs. So based on that standpoint, you'd got to think that Martinelli will probably be hooked for Smith Rowe a few times, and maybe Saka gets a bit more rest as opposed to riding him into the ground, which is what we basically did last season. And then maybe Nketiah gets thrown on, especially if we're chasing the game, and comes on as a second forward, or if we need a bit more pace or attacking threat, we throw him on for Jesus, or just adding another striker, and then maybe Odegaard or Martinelli comes out. So I don't think it's really going to affect Arsenal all that much, but yeah, if I had to pick somebody who would be in danger of it, I think Martinelli would probably be the best candidate. In terms of World Cup, Saka's going to be going to England. Jesus will be going to Brazil. Tomi for Japan. Tierney will get a much deserved rest since Scotland didn't make it. And yeah, I don't think Gabriel goes to Brazil or Ben White for England, and so Partey will be going for Ghana. So I think Partey, Saka, and Jesus will be the big ones going to the World Cup. And yeah, with Partey's injury issues, you got to be concerned about that. Yeah. But he did AFCON just fine, and then came back like a man possessed. Yeah. So if that mid-season cup gets him going, then I'm all for it.
What about Xhaka? Would he be gone as well?
Yeah, Xhaka will go for Switzerland.
Well, I assume
but he's a machine. Like he never.
True. I mean, I assume Elneny, because Egypt didn't make it, right? Elneny is Egyptian, so he should. I am assuming come in for him. Even when he was called upon towards the end of last season, he played really, really well.
Yeah. No, he's a good dude. I mean, very humble guy. Does a job whenever he's called upon. Doesn't whine about playing time, yada yada. So he came in, did a great job, given the circumstances. So he'll be fine. But I mean, you really have to. It'll be interesting to see how much rest these players get that are going to the World Cup and how many fixtures they end up missing. Unless you go fairly deep, it might not be all that many. And yeah, a team like Switzerland, yeah, I don't know how far they'll get. So yeah, it might not even come to that.
I mean, you never know. They knocked France out of the Euros, right?
They did, yeah. They're a tricky bunch, but yeah, I mean, you can't say that you'd be surprised if they didn't get out of the group at the same time. So we'll see.
All right, so now let's get to the fun part, the part that everyone really cares about, right? Or maybe the only part they care about is the draft part. So
True.
Looking at Arsenal assets, let's look at the first player that you're gonna pick. Who is it?
I mean, it's got to be Bukayo Saka. He was the top Arsenal asset last year. I think he finished 8th overall for all fantasy scores. Really came into his own. Benefited from not having extra fixtures and just balled out. So he's got to be the top of the class again this season. I suspect he'll be taken really late round 1 or early round 2. I peg him kind of in the 11 to 16 area, so he'll certainly be the first gunner taken off the board.
I'm surprised though. Why won't you go for Jesus, like starting striker for Arsenal? Do you not think that he could potentially outscore Saka this upcoming season?
It's a possibility. I don't think he will. Plus, it's a riskier proposition. I mean, Saka's proven in this system that he can ball out. But yeah, you bring up an interesting point, and I think the dynamic is such that either Jesus helps some of the assets around him by turning those assists or those key passes into assists and scoring more goals, or a player like Saka where everything runs through him, or at least it did last season. If he kind of has the Jack Grealish effect, leaving Villa, where he had the same setup where everything flew through him, as opposed to just being a really good player on a better team. So I'm interested to see if what the effect of Jesus is on a player like Saka, but given the numbers and the experience so far in this Arteta system, you got to back on the guy who's proven it already, as opposed to someone just coming in. But yeah, I think Jesus will be a good scorer. I just don't think that he'll top Saka.
All right, so then let's move on to the next 3 picks from Arsenal. Who you got?
Jesus, I think, will be the next pick. Some folks have him going a lot earlier than I like. I like him as a earliest late round 2, but probably more so early round 3. He's hard to gauge because of the City effect. I mean, if you just take his points per start, I mean, he almost averaged, I think, 15 last season, but he only had 21 starts. So can he deliver that week in, week out again in a worse team? Comparing City to Arsenal, and even though he knows Arteta and that will certainly help him hit the ground running, I just think it's a lot harder to gauge, and depends on your risk appetite. But I think his ceiling is probably around 15 goals. So I think he'll be up there, but I just I don't see him as a first round or even early second round player. So for my purposes, I like I said, very late round 2, early round 3 for me.
Okay,
that's one. And then I think the next one to come off the board will probably be Martin Odegaard. Started out slow last season. A lot of folks saw him as kind of the pass before the assist. But really came into his own.
Oh, it looked magical.
After a poor start.
Honestly, it's playing some sexy football. I'm not going to lie.
Oh, man. Yeah, dude. It's just like, he's one of those guys that you roster mostly but just because you love him. You love to watch him. And some of the times those points really didn't match what he was doing on the pitch. Yeah. But he's one of those guys, as opposed to Saka, that you just know is going to benefit from having a guy like Jesus banging him in. So I think he'll benefit from the having a striker that can actually score. How novel of an idea. So I see him going a little behind Jesus and probably mid to late round 3. He'll be a mid 1 for a lot of teams, I think. But yeah, he ended up with, I think, 10 points per start last season. He's nailed on in this Arteta system. Doesn't get injured, really. Like I said, he started 32 times last season. I don't see that changing. Maybe he gets a little bit more of a breather if Vieira shows promise. So maybe going back to our earlier conversation about 5 sub, maybe he doesn't do the full 90 every game like he did last season, but I still think he's gonna be a great pickup somewhere in round 3.
Yeah, I mean, Norway is not even in the World Cup. He had the most key passes for Arsenal last season with 77 of them.
Yep.
Honestly, solid player, finished 27th overall of all outfielders. Definitely one of the mids that I'd love to roster. And he's on set pieces, right? Never hurts when they're on that.
No, set pieces is a tricky thing, and I'm glad you brought that up because for Arsenal, it was a set piece by committee last season, and it's it was one of my biggest pet peeves with Arsenal and Arteta and rostering Arsenal assets last season. So you'd have in the span of one game, you'd have Saka taking left-sided corners. You'd have Martinelli and potentially Cedric taking right-sided corners. You'd have Odegaard probably doing direct free kicks that are in and around the box. And anything behind that, sometimes you'd have Xhaka or someone else coming in and taking them. So it was just like I said, set piece by committee, and it was really hard to know who was actually benefiting from these set pieces. What I hope they do this summer is dedicate one top 2 players to doing set pieces, and I think Odegaard has the best ball on the team. So if he was able to take over set pieces, I'd be happy, and 2, it would make him an even more attractive asset. So that's certainly something to watch early in the season to see if that system has changed or if it's just still 4 people on set pieces, and take your pick. And that's not even mentioning Smith Rowe when he comes in, because he takes some set pieces when he comes in. So yeah, it's kind of a nightmare. But I'm hoping that Odegaard is the designated set piece specialist from here on out.
Fair enough. And the final of the 3.
Gabriel Martinelli, one of my favorite players. Just love him. Is a workhorse, can dribble like nobody's business, and basically said he wants to stay at Arsenal for life. So what's not to love? I think he'll benefit from playing with Jesus. They know each other, obviously, from the Brazil team. It'll be good for him to have somebody to whip these balls into after he leaves somebody in the dirt. But I'm worried so the Rafinha news was very troubling for someone who was thinking about taking Gabriel Martinelli, because most likely they would have shunted Rafinha onto the left wing, and Martinelli would have lost out. Now that that's not going to happen, Martinelli might still be in line to be a regular starter, in which case he scores really well. Like I said, Jesus will help him, but the window's still open, and there's still some indications that Arsenal are still looking for another top winger. So that's something I'm keeping an eye on regarding Martinelli. But as is, if nothing changes, he should be the starting left winger, and he's a great player. And has a lot going for him. So, again, if we don't sign anyone else in the position, I'm looking at Martinelli around round 5.
Fair. Yeah, it's interesting with Martinelli because I feel like I don't know if it's his true potential, but based on the way he was kind of playing off Lacazette, Lacazette was great at like holding up the ball in that sense, right? Really strong guy.
Sure.
Being able to run off of the passes or whatnot and almost play like that number 9. But the thing is, I don't think Jesus really strikes me as that sort of Lacazette sort of character. So do you think maybe we see a different side to Martinelli's game based on Jesus' introduction to the squad?
I don't think so, because I think Jesus is a bit more like Eddie Nketiah, and he was able to play off of him as well. I think he can do both. If Jesus on like a counterattack is attracting more defenders and allows Martinelli to make a run through, I think he'll benefit from, say, a through ball from Ødegaard in those situations. But yeah, I think Martinelli's really adaptable, and he's such a great dribbler on the left wing that he can really play with anybody. It's a good point, but I back Martinelli to actually improve with Jesus, regardless of whether Jesus has the same type of hold up play as Lacazette. But I think Jesus will raise the standards, and like I said, for people that are feeding the number 9, him banging in more goals than Lacazette and Nketiah, I hope to God, will help will help raise all boats around him. So I think it'll help Martinelli.
All right, fair enough. All right, and now final one is one hidden gem that you think people might be overlooking for next season.
Oh man, I hate to give this away, but I already published every single one of my predilections and moves on the internet already. So what's the trouble? I like Thomas Partey pretty late. His overall numbers from last season weren't that great, so he'll be pretty low in terms of total points, so he's not going to pop up on your screen early on in the draft. But if you remember, and folks that rostered him at that time will remember, he had such a great purple patch coming back from AFCON, and he was just on his game. He was picking up defensive points as well as attacking
scored
ones.
The odd goal.
Yeah, exactly. He finally did. I mean, he's known for just like getting the ball and skying it whenever he gets past midfield, but he actually put one in. So I think he'll be a high-end defensive mid with like a floor of about 7 or 8, but able to nick some attacking returns. And like I said, because of his injuries and his bad start last season, I think he'll be overlooked by a fair amount of managers. But I like him to be like a mid-3 upside potentially after like round 12.
Okay, lovely. Now to kind of just wrap things off, let's get your take as an experienced manager. How do you go about trading assets, right? Do you look at the form of the player? Do you look at maybe upcoming fixtures of the player you're targeting? Like, what's your best piece of advice for managers playing next season?
Oh man, that's a tough one, because I think you have to look at both. If you're looking for value, right? You're looking to provide something that looks like it has a lot of value at the time for something that looks like it's lost value or it's losing value. So a great example of that, I think, last season was James Maddison, a player that is fantastic on his day for whatever reason, whether it was the hip or being pissed off he didn't get to leave Leicester last season or whatever. He had such a bad stretch, and I didn't roster him at the time, but I talked to many people who did, who were just complaining about him all the time, and I think a lot of them ended up trading him out for peanuts. And then obviously you saw his second half of the season; it was like 16 points a game. I mean, for those players that have it in their locker and for whatever reason just aren't producing at the time, you gotta send in offers for folks that are coming off a great set of fixtures, so they look better than they are, and they're going to lose value because they're now starting a bad run of form or run of schedule. So you're trying to align those things and getting good value for something that's for a player that's overperforming. So those are the types of things that I look for. in a trade. And I also like the 2-for-1 trades, because 2-for-1s, they look better than they really are. Plus, it gives you an extra roster spot, and you get a better player in return. I mean, those are my bread and butter.
Yeah. All right. Fair enough. Okay, great. That's all we really had planned to kind of talk about. Do you have
Got
any...
2 more hours left, man.
I know, right?
Booked myself until 9.
Listen, I'd love to chat for hours and hours. I don't think other people have the time for us though, Ryan.
No,
That's the
kidding.
problem. But do you have any closing thoughts, final remarks? I mean, feel free to plug the wonderful work that you boys are doing out at the TDS, right?
Yeah, I was gonna say I'd love to be able to plug our draft kit. Myself and the lads have gotten no rest this summer. While you guys were on the beach, we were in the lab pumping out sleeper articles. So I'd love to plug the Draft Society's draft kit. Just dropped July 1st. We're putting out new material and content every single day. We just started putting out the team articles. So Arsenal, Villa, Wolves, my 3 came out this week. So more of those will be coming out. We also have a lot of strategy articles coming out soon. Our rankings will be coming out, I think, next week. The first version of those, and so the best is yet to come. So if you haven't signed up for the draft kit, please do. We have you're charging, I think, $15 for just the draft kit, but the ultimate pass that we're offering is really the best deal, because it gives you the draft kit as well as a season-long Inner Circle membership, which gets you a lot of great goodies, including access to the Ghost Point tracker and my Ghost Point weekly article, which is my baby. So I would certainly advise folks to go to thedraftsociety.com and pick up a draft kit. But thanks for having me, man. I enjoyed it.
Definitely, it was a pleasure having you on, man. I'm glad we were finally able to connect, finally able to chat. I still want to come talk to the rest of you guys, Toddy, Joe, the whole crew.
Yeah, I'll put in a word.
Yeah, for sure. Would love to do a crossover episode, you know?
Yeah, absolutely, man.
But other than that, I think that's all for now. And folks, we'll see you on the next fan club segment. I don't know which club. Just, keep a lookout. That's all. All right, cheers. Have a good night, everyone.